The trade war is decimating Canada, and that wrenching feeling that you're getting in your gut right now, well, that's the trade war hitting us where it actually hurts in our homes, in our paychecks, and in our futures. The US, of course, just recently slapped us with 50% tariffs on aluminum, 25% on cars, and of course, China's original tariff retaliation with 100% measures on our farm exports. Now, our manufacturers are shuttering their doors. Our farmers are stressed beyond anything that they've ever felt before, and nearly 1.6 million Canadians are out of jobs right now. We haven't seen numbers this bad outside of a pandemic, really ever. And so, what are we to do? And what is Mark Carney and his Liberal government doing? Well, behind the scenes, he quietly launched a $6.5 billion aid fund, supposedly in March, but that had no targets and no timeline and no immediate relief for workers. And in fact, since the election campaign, it seems to have faded into the abyss. Meanwhile, the UK and China are deploying targeted subsidies within weeks of those tariffs and when those tariffs hit them. So, what's next for us and where can we help? Well, on this particular episode, I'm going to outline the 10 careers that you can bet on. These are the 10 careers you can pivot into that tariffs can't touch, why they're bulletproof, and why we can't let our government get away with continuing to tread water while Canadians suffer. So let's go.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Welcome back to Bakes on Things. I'm Chris Baker. A big episode here for you because we're going to take the reins and help you. But first, let's grasp the toll. In April, our manufacturing sector shed an astounding 31,000 jobs. It's the worst monthly performance since June of 2020, during a pandemic season when we first saw everybody panicking about the pandemic and COVID-19. But now unemployment rates, well, they're now at 6.9%, which is the highest for those rates in over 9 years. The country is suffering. Economic sectors are collapsing. Think about this. Ontario expects tens of thousands of more layoffs by year's end. And in the prairies, well, farming families are collapsing under the Chinese tariffs, including and most specifically the full canola tariffs. And where is Mark Carney? Where is the Liberal government? See, this isn't a downturn, everyone. It's a full scale economic shockwave by something we haven't really encountered before. So it's so important that we need leadership versus lip service. And here's what true leadership looks like and where Canada is failing. Look, the United Kingdom is our first example. It unleashed sector specific relief packages mere weeks after tariffs hit. Suddenly, steel workers in the UK and manufacturers had breathing room. And China, while we don't agree with most of the things they do, acted with lightning speed, providing exporters with low cost loans and subsidies almost immediately. And Canada, we wait and we be polite. We wait for our turn. A press release in March, multiple ministerial slogans later, and not a single concrete job protection program to date. Auto workers, steel workers, farmers, they're telling all of us that Carney just doesn't get it. Well, why in the Sam hell did you all vote for him then? Let's get into the 10 careers now that are tariff proof and why. Because a roadmap is something everyone needs. And these aren't just suggestions, they're actual strategic pivots you can make through supports already available towards stability. Healthcare is the first one because whether the economy booms or bust, Canadians require healthcare. No global competition or tariff barriers can change that consistent ongoing demand or need. Whether you're the hospital janitor or an actual doctor, you're needed. Public services like that too, like social workers and emergency responders. It functions on provincial payrolls and civic budgets. Tariffs won't cut these salaries. They're rooted in community need and not exports, and they're safe. Trade apprenticeships are desperate need, including electricians and plumbers. They're grounded in on site manual labor that simply can't be offshored or digitized because it's all local. Demand remains steady, recession after recession in that world. And tech and cybersecurity experts operate in borderless digital realms. So their services protect and optimize our global networks. Tariffs are completely irrelevant in that world, and you can be fully trained on them without going to university or college. Education, though, both in schools and adult learning, is funded locally and dependent on in person engagement. Education isn't outsourced and it thrives in economic uncertainty. You don't have to be a teacher, but you could go learn to be a teaching assistant in ECE. So many opportunities. Finance specialists are another one, from risk assessors to compliance experts. They're essential when markets falter. Tariffs create turbulence, and turbulence demands expertise. There's more expertise needed in financial advisors and other areas that you can be fully trained for outside of school. Green energy workers, solar panels, turbines, and electric transport. This sector is growing worldwide, and it's not hostage to export levies. E-commerce and logistics professionals thrive under trade constraints because when imports face barriers, Canadians buy local and supply chains pivot domestically. And of course, trade lawyers and legal professionals are needed to interpret these treaties, the challenging tariffs, and litigate disputes on all fronts. Legal wrangling is booming right now in protectionist climates because that's how we protect ourselves. Mental health is the last one I wanted to talk about. Providers are in drastically growing demand as financial stress from layoffs and uncertainty devours Canadian morale. Even if you're an assistant in a mental health office, you're making a difference. So here's how these careers punch back. What makes these pathways so powerful is not a magic trick, it's just structure. If you look deeply at each and every one of them, they're all fundamentally local, not export dependent. And they're also budget backed by public or private investments and not world debt. Counter cyclical. That means that they grow during downturns. Whereas steelmakers and auto workers have to worry about overseas tariffs, nurses, plumbers, and cyber pros simply just keep working because they aren't dependent on the world and trade and exports. So let's take a deeper look at where Canada falls short, because while countries like the UK and China are deploying sector specific supports within days, Canada has provided no direct wage insurance, no retraining subsidies, in fact, they canceled some retraining subsidies and loans, no rural community follow up, and absolutely no green restructuring plan, even though Mark Carney claims to be green. Carney instead says we're working with provinces and businesses. Okay. Yet you close the door on domestic stimulus. Instead, he's banking on trade negotiations that may never actually materialize. I said in a recent episode, if you just followed Jim Flaherty's plan from 2009, it would probably work. If you're worried about layoffs in manufacturing or ag, here's the immediate priority for you. Reskill where demand is safe. Things like healthcare, tech, green tech, and trades. Press for a real stimulus plan from Mark Carney and the Liberal government. Demand wage subsidies and rural support so that we can get the help we need to build back better. Hold local respons- Hold local representatives accountable. Your jobs, rents, and provinces are all at risk. Push for national retraining programs. We don't need empty talk, but we need contracts, certificates, and seats in these programs to get people trained. Support domestic demand. Buy Canadian, vote Canadian, build Canadian. Friends, Canada was, oh, that sounded very Doug Ford, didn't it? Canada was counting on quiet resilience, and instead, we got a full frontal trade attack with zero plan from our Prime Minister. But these 10 careers aren't just safe, they're the future proof pillars of a new Canada. If we pivot now, if we continue blaming tariffs or Donald Trump, for example, without building real solutions, we'll lose not just factories, but our communities altogether. Polite diplomacy is nice, but action saves families. Like this video, subscribe for real content, not political spin. Share it with someone on the factory line, someone laid off from the mill. Let's help each other. Let's fire up Canada with action and not excuses. And it's action we can all take. Thanks so much for watching Bakes on Things. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and of course comment because topics like this are coming from directly from you, and it does help build the channel with the algorithm as well. Thanks for watching Bakes on Things. I'm Chris Baker, and we will see you again tomorrow morning.